Whatever the occasion, effortless elegance is right this way. Because Hilton brings you new ways to stay courtesy of the Nomad London. And it doesn't stop at award-winning dining in a space draped in velvet and illuminated by vintage chandeliers. No, this day goes beyond with unparalleled personalized service and attentive hospitality. Oh, and did we mention the Nomad London can be booked using your Hilton Honors points at Hilton.com? Hilton, for the stay.
This Steve Jones Show podcast is now loading. The Steve Jones Show podcast is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Purdy Insurance, and Brewers Outlet. Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Brewers Outlet, Sunbury Motor Company, and Purdy Insurance. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
And this half hour. This half hour is being brought to you by Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15, Hummels Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. Ford, Kia, Hyundai, best in new inventory. Great pre-owned inventory that they go over with a fine-tooth comb to make the buying experience easier. And a great service department. Whether it's quick lane inspections, routine, difficult, they handle it all at Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors, Kia, routes 11 and 15, Hummels Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. And we bring in the outstanding Tuesdays with Neal. Neal Coolong, sir, welcome.
You bet. As always, great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Okay, interesting time. Frank Ragnow retired at the age of 29. He played through a lot of injuries, so he didn't miss as many games. But what does that now mean for a Detroit Lion offensive line and approach? Because they're a team that has been built, quote, the old-fashioned way by winning up front.
And winning up front they have, and Ragnow's been a big part of that. You're looking at a high-level center isn't just physical. It's more mental than anything else. It's giving your quarterback the ability to identify the rush. In some cases, they're pointing out coverage as well. It's not just, yelling who the middle linebacker is like we usually hear watching on TV. They're diagnosing where guys are going to come. They're usually very intelligent. The best ones are very intelligent. They know how to play. And with a guy like Ragnow, he had the physical ability as well. They could pull him as part of their power game. He had that quickness coming out of his pivot. A high-level player, that's a big loss. And you have to think, to some degree, the Lions had to know that was at least on the table. And we'll see exactly what their plans are going to be. But success at that position tends to beget success at that position if you prepare for it, if you've got somebody waiting in the wings. Now, the problem is the 53-man roster, teams don't tend to like to back up their center with a future starter. Usually he's a veteran interior lineman that can play all three positions, center when they need him to, but he's not necessarily their long-term option. A guy like Ragnow, I don't want to say that 29 is old or young. You're kind of in the middle there, but he's been hurt quite a bit. This isn't something that it didn't just come up last week. He's been thinking this for a while. Injuries mount after a while. It's kind of like, all right, I can keep doing this. It's just not worth it anymore. And I think that's the decision he came up with, which is unfortunate for the Lions. But it's been a team that has existed largely on the ability in their scheme, particularly in their run game. Not to undermine the level of players that they have there, Ragnow in particular, but when you have a schematic advantage, you can push that with maybe less than all pro level players. But we'll see. Come end of September, we're really going to have a good idea of the real value that Ragnow had on that team. Definitely a big loss for the Lions, but a team that they've lost guys before, and they've continued to be successful. We'll see what they drum up, but definitely a huge curveball to their offseason. Any ability that they have to get to a Super Bowl, you have to kind of wonder now, are they going to be able to make that step, finally get over that hump and get in the game where they want to be?
it looks like Tate Ratledge, the rookie from Georgia, may get the first shot at that. Ragnow's important, but they still have Penei Sewell, which is really important in all of this. The New Orleans Saints need a quarterback. With everything that has gone on, where do they play in all this? Because we know what the Steelers and the Rodgers thing and so forth. Where do the Saints play in all this? Because they need one.
Saints have a pretty rough quarterback room going into the year. Some might say that's by design.
Yeah.
I think it's easy from a conspiracy theorist perspective to say that they're the ones truly, tanking for Arch Manning, whether he would enter the draft or not. They don't know that now, of course, but obviously there's the familial tie with the city of New Orleans, where he is from, where his grandfather was a legend, and his father and uncles starred within the local community. So you could definitely see pretty strong bet if they happen to get the number one pick that they would select Arch Manning. I think that certainly the story writers of the NFL would want to plan it out that way if they had the ability to do so. So it's clear and obvious. Two teams in the NFL, add Cleveland to this as well. Three teams in the NFL that absolutely need a quarterback, both now and next year. The Saints, the Browns, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. So looking at comparing the three of them, I almost think that New Orleans is twice as well situated as either of those other teams to get that number one spot. I would say that they're definitely an odds-on favorite for it. And again, maybe that's by design. I don't think that Derek Carr. I'm not saying that he retired involuntarily, but I don't think he was going to get the money that he would have wanted to play for this season. Right. And I don't think the Saints necessarily had much of a problem in wishing him the best and giving him a gold watch and seeing him enter into retirement. Their quarterback position is not going to be good, just considering what they have. With Shucky, you're looking at a young player a non-young player who's got good upside. That's kind of an odd combination. Maybe the upside they see is a lot of experience playing because the guy's been playing since like 1992. It's kind of hard to forget. He shouldn't be raw. He's played the game more than anybody has. There are veterans in the league that have played less football than Chuck has. So right. you put all that along with Spencer Rattler, a guy with, I missed on that quite a bit. I thought he would be a pretty successful player. Boatload of arm talent, just doesn't make good decisions ever. Right. And to me, at this point now, considering it's been like the last 4 seasons with him, I don't think it's wise to expect he'll get over that and play the game the way it needs to be played. I don't know how long you could really get with him. I'm forgetting their third option off the top of my head, but I don't think it's any better than options 4, 5, and 6, which may or may not be on their roster. They're not going to have a particularly good quarterback position this season, and that really kind of calls into question, what are they looking to do long term? Is this going to be the year where they kind of flip everything out? Kellen Moore comes in knowing that this really is a rebuild, and they're, if they like Shuck that much, I guess you could say, well, they got their guy. This is about building him up. I would anticipate he'll be the starter certainly at some point this season. But overall, they don't have a very strong team. And the quarterback is the biggest hole. But, I don't like accusing anybody, especially in the NFL, of tanking. And I'm not saying that's what they're doing. Certainly the players are not going to do that. But they do not have a very strong roster, and they do seem pretty well positioned to be in probably the top 3 of next year's draft.
You mentioned the need for quarterbacks next year. You said the Steelers, the Saints, and the Browns. Don't the Browns have Shedeur Sanders?
Yeah, they have a lot of guys. They have several quarterbacks. I've said this. there are things to like about Shedeur. He can play the game at a certain level. It's just that he doesn't have much of a ceiling, I don't think. He's not physically, a high-level guy. Fifth round, I think, is call it atmospherically charged. I think there was a reason he fell to the fifth. The second, I think, is probably the most reasonable, just simply because he's played quite a bit. He's experienced. He's smart. He recognizes what's going on. He knows what a defense is doing against him. He knows where to get the ball. He's a good decision maker. His thing, probably more than anything, is you watch him. He drops back in the pocket when he sees pressure, which, unfortunately for him, 2 years at Colorado, he saw quite a bit of pressure. But it's not production that you're looking at. It's how he's reacting to that. And a player that lacks high-level athleticism cannot go backwards in the NFL and expect to get anything out of it. That's typically what you're going to do if you're just going to out-angle defenders and make a big-time throw on the on moving outside of the pocket against your body, whatever it is. There are players who can do that. Shedeur isn't one of them, though. I remember, I think we talked about this. I thought it was hilarious. The one highlight they showed, not that this is his fault, but the one highlight they showed the most, I think, on draft weekend was this one where he gets the ball, immediately he's seeing A-gap pressure. He spins and rolls out to his left, and he throws up a prayer to the corner of the end zone where the third overall pick in the draft makes a big play on it. Like, who's the highlight here? I mean, it was not a smart decision on Shedeur's part. It's not as if Travis Hunter was going to that spot. He had to readjust and make a play on it. But that, I think, personified the success that Sanders had. One might say that it's smart to put the ball up to your playmakers and let them make a play. On the other, there's no way he's getting away with that in the NFL. It wobbled. It took forever to get where it was going. And he would have taken a 13-yard loss on the play because he wasn't, in my opinion anyway, he wasn't athletic enough over 5 steps, maybe 2. Over 5 steps, he's not outrunning an NFL defensive end, which is not going to happen.
Right.
So if that's what he's built his body of work on now, he's got a long way to go, and that's going to be a problem. And Cleveland, I think, kind of knows that, but I would expect I definitely think he's a better quarterback than Dylan Gabriel is. So I think Shedeur is the one that makes the team, or they cut both of them, keep 2, and have 1 on the practice squad. I think he would be what you'd call your third quarterback by the end of training camp. And that, to me, absolutely does not suggest that either Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, or Shedeur Sanders should be your guy going into 2026. And depending on where Cleveland falls, I don't know. I've kind of given up trying to anticipate where Cleveland's going to be as a team. What I know is the one thing we can absolutely bank on is Deshaun Watson's not going to be on that team next season. They're going to have to pay a little bit, but it's time for them to find another quarterback long term. And where we're sitting today, it's not going to be the guy that they took in the 3rd round or the 5th round. If they're up high enough, I think they're going to go get one because they really need one. They've spent a lot of money on that roster and been let down by their quarterback. So with that, I put them. I don't know. I could see them landing in the top 10 somewhere, but they got picks back. Maybe they'll want to make a move to get up a little bit and get one of what I think could be 3 or 4 pretty high-level prospects. And Cleveland could use probably any one of them going into next season.
Is there any move player-wise the Steelers could make that would entice Aaron Rodgers? Because I know he likes to be surrounded by people he's familiar with.
Oh, man. Just joking with some friends of mine. If they sign if they trade for Alan Lazard, it's going to be that move is just so perfect for them. A player that really has not done anything with Rodgers recently, and overall nothing without him at all. If Rodgers needs Alan Lazard on the team, I'm not sure what Alan Lazard is doing to justify that, but it doesn't seem I would think an offense can find success without Alan Lazard on it. There are plenty of veteran, no-name, kind of nobody receivers on the Steelers right now. I don't think they need another one. If they're going to go get a dude, go get one. But it's not Lazard. Beyond that, Rodgers, I don't. The situation hasn't really changed.
No.
This is what the team is. Do you want to be a part of it or not? I think he might have some moderate success. I can see him. I mean, largely last season, he looked terrible the first half of the year. He didn't look.
Second half he was good.
Some of that could be coming off of injuries. Second half, he had some moments in there. That kind of makes you think, like, all right, this might be better than what they had last season, maybe. And at that point, that's a high bar for the Steelers. They're not going to get better than that. So I could see either way. I'm not sure it's going to matter where Pittsburgh's going to land in the end, because with Rodgers, maybe their odds increase a little bit. Without Rodgers, it'll be another year where 15 of their 17 games they're played with the lesser of the two quarterbacks playing in the game. If you get Rodgers in there, maybe that goes to 12. But by and large, they're going to be outmanned at skill positions again. They're going to lack explosive plays. They're going to try to load up to have, 9-play drives for, some touchdowns, largely field goals, and then hope to hold the opponent under 22 points. That'll be their key to success. That's probably what's going to happen. Most of the games they win. That's what they're built to do right now. And it's also one step away from completely falling apart. So Rodgers, it's not going to be about money. He's not going to get the $30 million that people seem to think that he wants. It's going to be in the ballpark of 15 to 17 if he does sign. But my guess would be if he's going to, it's not going to be until like a week before training camp. Maybe even during training camp, for all we know. He doesn't really have any particular reason to sign right now. But the Steelers, they've presented the entire way that they're comfortable allowing the triumvirate of dominance of Mason Rudolph, Skylar Thompson, and Will Howard compete for a starting NFL quarterback position, which is just bizarre to me. But that's what they've set themselves up to do. If they're hanging on, waiting for Rodgers, I don't know if the situation gets any better or worse. I think it's kind of the same thing, and it's not going to be great.
It's interesting because I talked to Mike Yursich a little while back, who was Mason Rudolph's coach at Oklahoma State. And he's a little bit surprised that Rudolph has at least done a little bit more in the league. Not a star or anything. How do you view Rudolph?
It's an interesting question because he gets broken down with like the ultra harsh lens for being around the situation. The situation being in Pittsburgh. Ben Roethlisberger would have rather had somebody other than Rudolph, allegedly, didn't talk to him at all. Not that it's, the veteran starter's job to coach the backups, but there seemed to be kind of an edge there to it. When he got in there initially, and we've said this before, I thought he looked pretty good against Baltimore when he was brought in for his first action after Ben went down. And then Earl Thomas knocked him across the Monongahela, and I don't know if he came back the rest of that season. Right. That's 1 year gone for him there. But I thought he did okay. And in the last game, the longest amount of time from that devastating hit that he took, the last time that he would play that season, he played pretty well. You were kind of encouraged, he might have something there. He had his ups and his downs, to put it mildly. I think by and large, this is kind of the nature of a backup quarterback or a fringe starter. His opportunities, when he had his opportunities, he didn't make the most out of all of them. Not that he should have, or that's reasonable to ask of anybody, but he's got moments in mind that you think this isn't going to work at all. He's not going to be there. He has games like that. But the last 3 games he played in Pittsburgh, he played to me like, my career is on the line. I'm ready for this. This is my moment. And he went out and made things happen. And I was impressed with that. And then he went to Buffalo for a playoff game on the road. They weren't going to win that game. I don't think anybody thought they were going to. He didn't have his best game, but he did some things in that game that were okay. Might have been the best quarterback performance we've seen from the Steelers quarterback in the playoffs for a while. Not that that says much, but he competed. He went out there, and it wasn't going to be enough. You're not going to beat that team on the road in the first round of the playoffs, not with the roster the Steelers had. But I thought he was all right for what he was. But my thing is always, I don't have any reason to think over 17 games he's going to be better than he is worse in that time. I think he could have a stretch of 8-10 quarters where he plays pretty well. He's going to fall off, though. There's going to be times where they're going to beat him. Not a great athlete, but he gets rid of the ball. Not the most accurate passer in the world, but he will, deliver it to somebody that he appears to think is open. Decent deep ball thrower, but not somebody that's going to get away with, hard, difficult, 15 to 18 yard out types of throws consistently. Some things are there, but I think in the end it's a lot of not enough, if that makes sense. I think he can start for you over a couple games, but he won't do well. And part of the reason I say that is because that's what happened in Tennessee. I believe, and I said this at the time, he signed with the Titans because he thought he was going to be able to play in that offense better than Will Levis could.
That's right.
I agreed with him. I think that's why he did it. He wasn't going to get much, but he had the opportunity to win the starting job. Maybe not right off, but he was going to get, and he did. Granted, Levis went down with an injury, but Rudolph had that job if he could have kept it. Now, everything went wrong for the Titans last year. That's why they were drafting number 1 overall, and you can't blame them for taking, a very talented quarterback for cheap for however long, and it was time for Rudolph to move on. But I thought we saw some things that kind of show, like, fringe starter, I think he's still there. I don't know if I want him on an extension, and the Steelers didn't either. They signed him to a 1-year deal as close to the minimum as possible. So not a whole lot of faith from the team in him being a guy beyond the season. But I'd say right now odds are better than they are not that he starts a couple games for the Steelers this season.
My friend, always a pleasure. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right. Neal Coolong joining us in this half hour. Brought to you by Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummels Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
When car repairs get difficult.
Well, I just don't know. Me neither.
We get good. Sunbury Motors. More than quality new and used cars, Sunbury Motors specializes in complicated auto repair diagnosis. They can handle intricate repairs and even complete auto body with service open Monday through Friday, 7 till 4. And Sunbury Motors has made simple repairs easy. Maintaining your vehicle is necessary. Finding the time to do it is difficult. Welcome to Sunbury Motors Quick Lane. Just walk in or call ahead. Relax in their remodeled waiting room with Wi-Fi, beverages, and snacks. Will Sunbury Motors factory-trained techs take care of your oil change, tire alignments, brakes, and inspections. Quick Lane, 6:30 to 6, Monday through Friday, Saturday, 6:30 till 2. Sunbury Motors, Ford and Hyundai, North 4th Street, Sunbury. And Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummels Wharf. We take the out of auto repair.
Hi, this is Season. For over 100 years, the Purdy Insurance Agency has been protecting families and businesses of the greater Susquehanna Valley and beyond. With the experience of our trained and knowledgeable staff, you can rest assured that your needs will be evaluated and met by some of the industry's best representatives. No matter what your insurance needs are, call Purdy Insurance today at 570-286-5855. Visit our website at purdyinsurance.com or check us out on Facebook to see what we can do for you.